That was a pivotal moment for me that is stuck with us to this day, was to say, I'm going to make this business, what I said in the beginning, people over profits. I'm going to make it all about people, not even the product, right? We have an awesome product. I'm not worried about that, right? I got to make it about the people. And so this is what's kept me inspired to this day, is that I look at our business as a leadership development company that happens to sell smoothies, right? And that's what I started focusing on. And it started with recruiting and bringing people on the team who shared that passion with me. All I cared about after Store 7 was I started getting really into like leadership books and company culture books and people development books and things like this. And I started interviewing people and talking to them about company culture and people. And the ones that like I would spend an hour, sometimes 2 hours, that we would just be sharing conversation around our passion for people development and culture. Those are the people I hired. So I started filling my team with people that are with me to this day on the corporate support team, who have helped build the company, because we all had the shared mission and vision of building an awesome company culture and building an awesome leadership development program. So I started like just hiring people like that, and then refocusing on our recruiting, on our training, on our systems.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, CEO and founder of South Block, Amir Mostafavi. My man, Amir, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Feeling unstoppable, man. Thanks for having me.
I'm stoked to have you. I actually listened to the episode that you did with Zach Oates from Ovation. I love what they're doing over there at Ovation. Do you guys use Ovation?
We do use Ovation.
Great tool.
New tool we started using. We're loving it.
Yeah. So, I mean, immediately it didn't take long for me after doing just a little bit of research that like you're going to be a great episode, and I cannot wait to dive in.
Pressure's on.
Yeah, dude. A lot of cool things that I heard about you in my research, and it's going to be good. So the pressure is on, but I know you're going to be good. I can't wait to dive into it, but let's get that motivational, inspirational, ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Yeah, man. Mine is pretty consistently people over profits. People over profits. And probably not the first time that you or your listeners have heard this, but for me, it's been an interesting mantra, especially this past year, as we just entered into our private equity partnership with Savory Fund and our first private equity deal that we've done. And, when you're doing private equity, there's a lot of talk about the numbers, which numbers are so important to the success of your business. But kind of the point that I make with people over profits is that it's got to start with people, your guest experience, your team that you're recruiting, that you're hiring, that you're training, your culture, and then kind of the byproduct of that is awesome economics behind the business. So all my KPI reports include GX score. GX scoring is part of what we're looking at in addition
to
guest experience scoring. So always leading with people. It's come through for us so many times throughout the years in business that it's my mantra, man. People over profits.
I love it, and it's one thing in my research that stood out to me, and I was like, yes, this guy gets it. And I went live before this interview to like talk to my audience, and I said I really want to get into his mindset of people over profit and guest experience, and really reverse engineering and listening to that guest experience and like letting that drive the evolution of the brand, right?
Yeah.
But it's so often like we're in an industry where the margins are so tight.
Yeah.
We focus on prime cost of goods, labor, and it can be easy to lose sight of what matters and what business is all about. Like a company, it's literally the company you keep. Like we exist for business to serve people, and I think that after the Milton, Milton? What the hell's that economist name? Whatever, Stephen Milton or something like that. Milton something.
I'm not gonna be able to help you with that one.
Oh yeah, well, it's just whoever coined the idea that like it's like the purpose of a business is to drive profit for the stakeholders, right? Those are relationships, but at the end of the day, we can't lose sight of it's really to serve community, and that's more of the Adam Smith mindset of like businesses exist to provide benefit and value to everybody that it touches.
Right, but I think that's where it starts. But then, like I said, the byproduct is
Milton Friedman was the name I couldn't.
Okay, gotcha. The byproduct is, of course, you have to have your figured out like what your COGS should be, your labor should be, what your systems are in order to manage those controllable costs. But that's sort of the easy part. Once you put those in place, you kind of got to be an idiot to screw that up. But the hard part to nail is the people piece.
Right. 100%.
That's why it leads with that. But that's not to say that the numbers around the business aren't important. But if you don't start with the people part, then you're probably not going to have a business to even worry about what the economics look like.
Yeah. I can't wait to dive into your story, man. But real quick, before we really start to unpackage how you got here, give us an idea of where you are today. Like how many units?
Great. So those of you that don't know South Block, we're a smoothie, acai bowl, juice shop. Started South Block in 2011. We are today we just opened our 19th location. We're about to open number 20 in a few weeks here. And we're continuing to expand in the DMV. We're all in the DMV right now, DC, Virginia, Maryland. And we're just about to go into our first new market outside of the area.
Exciting.
In Charlotte, North Carolina. That might be an exclusive announcement here. That we're going to. We just signed 2 leases there. I just got back from Charlotte yesterday, man. Beautiful city. We're really excited about being part of that community, building blocks down there. So we're planning to go into Charlotte, kind of not take for granted that we are the new kid on the block, and we're going to get really involved with the community, get back to the community, get to know the community. And yeah, we're excited about growth down there, but we still think there's a ton of potential here too. So just, focus on continuing to maintain quality of product and our culture through scale.
Got it. So soon to be 20 locations. You guys focus on acai bowls, cold pressed juice, and smoothies.
Yep.
Can we talk like just an idea of like unit economics? Like what is your percent profit can you share that?
Yeah, man. That's the funny thing too, is like our numbers are really good. Like we're right about 26%.
Hell yeah, dude.
Sleebada.
What is Sleebada?
Sleebada store level EBITDA. So our store level profit is on average 26% per unit.
That's pretty awesome. Like what is the sway on that from your best performing to like your poorest performing?
They're all pretty consistent. I think you might range from like, call it like 20, maybe 22% to like 30%.
Okay.
At the top, but then we're right there.
26
in
is the
26,
average.
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of prime costs, where are you at with cost of goods?
Our cost of goods are somewhere around 32%.
Wow. That's pretty good, man. And
Yeah.
what about labor?
Labor, we're somewhere around.
That's going to be low.
If we're not counting corporate labor, we're somewhere around like 20%, 21%.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So you're right around 53%.
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. So thank you for painting that big picture. And now, where does it make sense to start sharing your story?
Depends on how far you want to go back, man. I've been in the juice business since 2004.
Okay. What were you doing before juice?
So I went to school at Virginia Tech to be a graphic designer and got my degree in graphic design, marketing. Grew up just always interested in art. Always thought that would be my career path. Somewhere there was like either when I got to college, it was either like graphic design or architecture.
Yeah.
And I didn't love math enough to go architecture, so I went graphic design. But I always loved that creativity, that creative space. So I went to graphic design. Then I got out. I got a job. I got out of college. Got a job at a corporate job. I worked at PwC actually.
What's PwC?
PricewaterhouseCooper. Okay. It wasn't for me, the corporate environment.
What wasn't for you?
Sitting in a cube all day and not being very productive, like just not having a lot that was motivating or that kept me busy or that interested me or that felt like I was doing anything meaningful with my life. You generally go in, you spend a couple hours working, you take a long lunch, and then you're just waiting for 5 o'clock to hit. So for me, that wasn't the life that I wanted. And it's funny, I grew up in an entrepreneur family. My dad was a businessman. He owned video rental stores when I was growing up. I worked there, and he was a business professor before that. And he quit teaching to open his video stores. And the lesson I thought I learned was the last thing I wanted to do was have my own business. So I was really focused on this like kind of 9 to 5, 401k, paid vacations until I got out and did it. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe my dad wasn't so crazy after all, because he was doing something that he was passionate about. He was doing something that kept him up late at night thinking, that got him up early in the morning, motivated. And what looked like work to me was really just him living an exciting life.
Right.
You know?
What did you witness from your perspective that made you so entrepreneur adverse?
Well, I saw him go from a professor who had summers off and winter breaks off, and we would go on family vacations in the summer, to having no time, working weekends.
So really, you didn't like your dad being an entrepreneur.
Right.
It wasn't a good deal.
He loved it. I mean, it was in his blood. And then I think I grew to find out it was in my blood too.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was what I saw of like, how much you had to work as an entrepreneur. But then I realized, like, I'd rather be busy than bored. And when you love what you're doing, when you're passionate about it, doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. 100%.
And I just wanted, like, whatever I did, I didn't want it to feel like work. Even though like you're stressed and you're busy and you're working, like more having my own business than when I work my corporate job, it feels less like work, if that makes sense.
No,
like
100%.
It feels like my life.
It's like, what comes to my mind is, if you have the right why, you can deal with any how.
Yeah.
If you have a purpose, if you love what you do, and it feels, we all are striving for a definite purpose in life, right? To self-actualize. And if you can achieve that, if you can find that, there is no such thing as work-life balance. There's just your life's work. You know, like you can bear almost anything.
Yeah.
You still want to make time for people in your family, right? Like I'm saying, you neglect all other parts of your life, but it makes showing up to that thing you have to do much easier.
Yeah.
So you mean, even just listening to that story, like hearing your dad, like his passion was film. He was teaching film. And then
he was teaching international marketing and business.
I don't know where I got film from.
He had movie stores.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, yeah. I thought that he went from teaching film to like selling like video. Like,
no, and he actually probably rarely even went to the movies. Like, he just thought it was
good business.
It was the 80s, you know. And he's like, I see these like video things. So he just was curious about it and started his own thing. We had the local video store called Box Office that competed with Blockbuster.
So what were you doing when, like, during this time where you're starting to realize, you don't like the work, but what was the work that you were doing?
When I got to college?
Yeah, like when you were in the
so I was doing mainly designing proposals. It was a lot of red line on. It wasn't creative, fun stuff. Like, I visioned myself like designing like movie posters, CD cover, album covers, like, fun creative stuff like that. But it was mainly business, government proposals, things like that.
That sounds pretty horrible.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So when, like, take me to the point where you mustered up enough nerve to take a risk and to go out and do something. When was that?
So, like I said, pretty quick out of college, I started just thinking about ideas for business. In fact, I briefly launched this business called DC Clips.
Okay.
It was like it was like the first Groupon, like living social thing, but cool. Before the technology was there, where it was just like local business coupons on the site that you could print out and take to the business.
Okay.
So I tried that for a little while, but then not really a tech guy or a sales guy. So that didn't really go very far. Then I just started, I would go visit like friends and family in San Diego and would go to these juice bars there. And I grew up just like, I'm a kid, like I literally, like my mom in my Easter basket one year put just exotic fruits in there. I just grew up loving like fruits, veggies. And I always loved like the flavors, the colors, the scent. And I was just drawn to this world of these Southern California juice bars. I was drawn to the vibe mainly. Like I just loved the feeling of going into these places. And I knew we had nothing like that in the DC area. And I felt like this area needed that flavor, that vibe.
Yeah.
And so just started thinking about that and how to do that. But the problem was I had no food service experience.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the quote that I heard that gave me, it was one of the 2 quotes I heard that gave me the kick in the ass to start this podcast. And that's, if you're looking for something and you can't find it, there's a good chance you're not the only person looking, and there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
So like build that void that you're looking for. And especially if you can look to different parts of the country and you see that it has traction in different markets, then it's going to have traction.
Yeah.
Here.
And this was, like I said, early 2000s.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah. So so 2004 is when you opened your first like juice bar, right?
Yeah. So the story is, and this is a little known, little share, like not very shared story of the journey. What I decided to do when I started my first juice bar in 2004 was actually my dad and I. He had sold his video stores. He was like semi-retired, and so I had come upon this concept, this juice concept that was franchising. And so my dad and I bought the master franchise development rights for DC, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware.
Okay. We
opened our first juice bar, which I was running the whole thing.
How old were you?
I was, how old was I? I was 27, something like that, maybe 28, something like that.
So like 5 years after graduating, you're doing the corporate thing.
Yep.
It took 5 years to realize that you do not want to go down this path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the year I got married too.
Okay.
So the year I got married, 2004, I quit my job and started a juice bar. My wife was like, what are you doing?
That's wild. But I mean, I love the risk, right? Just go.
Yeah. I think the thing is, man, like I think I grew up, like it was in my blood. Like my dad took risks and I didn't even think about it, man. Like I wasn't one of these businesses that I didn't have a business plan. I didn't sit down and overthink the numbers and projections. Like I think honestly that worked to my benefit, to like, you just jump in, and when your back's against the wall, you have no choice but to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I still operate like that, like to some degree. I think you have to be prepared to pivot, adapt. Like I think a lot of people make the mistake of spending so much time with their head in their computer on their Excel sheet, figuring out the numbers of the business and projection. You know, a lot of people like scare themselves out of doing it. But what I learned is like the moment you start your business, like that all goes out the window. Like you just have to be prepared to react to your business. And so that's what I did. I mean, I'd love to say like it was like a smooth process from the beginning. So we got these master franchise rights. We opened our first store in DC, right across from George Washington University. My dad wasn't involved at all. He just kind of helped with the investment into it.
What was the investment back in 2004 that you needed to come up with?
Oh man, I think
ballpark.
I think the master franchise rights were like $25,000.
That's not bad.
Yeah, and then we opened our first store that I think cost us like $150,000, $200,000.
Yeah, you're intentionally not saying the name of the franchise. I'm noticing. Is there conflict or like?
There's yeah. I mean, I just don't want to call it out, but it didn't turn out to be a great experience, not just for me, but for everyone that was involved. And they were selling master franchise agreements across the country all at the same time, and then just didn't end up delivering on the promise, right?
Yeah.
So I was in a position where, like, honestly, the next couple of years of my life, like, I thought I made a huge mistake, right? Like, I was waking up in what felt like a nightmare every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, just
what
I didn't
was
see
the nightmare. What paint the picture of what the nightmare was.
It was, I'd have to wake up before the sun came up, go to the store. I had very, very little to none training and support. Like I said, I'd never been in the business myself. I worked 2 weeks in a sandwich shop at Virginia Tech. I quit because my manager was an asshole, and that's all I knew is, like, if you're an asshole, your employees will quit. So I was just in a position where I was having to figure everything out on my own. and I was having to work open to close, and I was having to, do all the marketing and promotions and answer emails and everything, and not making any money. The location was wrong. It was a Monday through Friday business district. We weren't pulling any of the students.
I was gonna say, you're across the street from a university, though. There wasn't student.
What we found out is that was a barrier. Like the students generally didn't cross over Pennsylvania Avenue.
Got it.
They stayed on that side.
How many lanes is Pennsylvania Avenue?
Like 4 lanes.
Yeah. Is there crosswalks?
There's crosswalks, but we got some students, but
Got it.
not to the point where it was hard because most of your business was lunch.
Yeah.
And that was your only day part, Monday through Friday. Weekend, no business to speak of. Evenings, no business. So it was a tough location, and also we're in like a new concept. And this was back in 2004, right? But we ended up. It just felt like it was so much work, and I didn't, and it felt like that partnership was a mistake, and I didn't know where we were going.
How was your relationship with your dad at this point?
It was good.
Okay.
No, it was good. I mean, he was, like I said, pretty hands off. He was just supporting me,
Were you making any money?
best he could. No, he paid me $500 a week.
Okay.
To manage the store, basically.
So I
was making, what is that, like $24K?
Okay.
And so we were relying on my wife's salary as a school counselor and her health care.
Okay. So you're just making enough to like basically get by, knowing that there was gonna be sacrifice in the beginning, but hopefully it would pick up and you could scale it.
No, well, the plan was to open the one unit and then sell franchises and develop the market.
Okay.
Quickly realized that wasn't going to happen because I wasn't comfortable selling franchises when I wasn't confident that we could deliver on the promise.
So what is a master franchise document? What would you call it? Master franchise?
Master franchise agreement.
Does that give you the right to sell franchises?
Yes.
Or is it just to execute?
It gives you the right to develop and sell franchises in that market.
So you were the franchise. Well, technically you weren't. You didn't want to be the franchisee. You wanted to be the franchisor in this market.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit of both. I could have done some,
Operations
of our
and some.
own stores and then also sell franchises.
Do you know the name Charles Internicola?
No.
So he runs the Charles Intercanola or the Intercanola law firm, and they specialize in franchise business and law.
Okay.
And, just literally, he was the previous interview before this one. So we went deep into the world of franchising. And like when I started this podcast, I was very against big corporation and franchises and big business. My goal was to interview all the leaders across the country in like the small markets, the main street restaurateurs that are like the best, the James Beard, the Michelin star. Like in my mind, like these are the people I want to make an example of because we need more of this in the world. That was almost 1,200 episodes ago. As I started talking to people and learning, and realizing that these restaurateurs, that these 6 to 7 unit restaurant operators with like different concepts, they bring something special into the world, but they are struggling to make money. So when I started trying to talk to them about, hey, like how are you making money? And really started to get to realize that these people that are holding up as leaders and business people are barely scraping to get by, like 5-8% if they're lucky.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like how do we find the balance? So I started breaking out and talking to more franchise and corporations to learn, like what can we learn from this and apply on a local level? So the more I started to like open my mind and to like look over to the other side, I was like, wait a second, franchising isn't horrible. It's just a process, a method for scaling something that works really well. So it has opened my eyes to that world, and I love talking. Are you a franchise with South Block?
No, we're not a franchise.
Do you want to franchise?
Well, you know what? That experience kind of turned me off to it, to where like what I don't want to do is ever have an offering that isn't going to be a successful partnership for everyone involved, right? So with our unit economics, it could make a great franchise. If you're 26% store level EBITDA, like if you're paying an 8% franchise fee, there's still plenty left for you. But some models don't work like that. But you're right. Like a lot of people, they have to have multiple locations, or they find out that they just bought themselves a full-time job that is not paying them very well. Like, it can become a problem pretty quickly. So
I mean, at the end of the day, business is about relationships, and you can use different vehicles to scale, like different models to scale a business, right? So you said some really important things there, that there was no support, no training, no marketing.
Yep.
You were there's three ways to make money with a franchise. It's selling the franchise. It is the royalties that you're making, the recurring revenue from a success like that's coming in from all the people that are working your franchise. And then it's the essentially affiliate marketing and sales of selling products and like tools and technologies to outfit, to standardize the operations, right? So you have dealers with the deals with the vendors, and you're selling those to the people who are putting these things into their business. And what ends up happening is people get this idea and they want to scale fast, and they're thinking, we're gonna make money by selling. We want to just sell the franchise and make money that way, but they give no support. The gold ticket with franchises is the royalties of helping people become successful.
Yeah.
Right. When you don't have that support, that's an example of how not to do it. Right. So, I mean, if there is the support and you are using franchising as a vehicle to create opportunity for others and to support them, and you start really slow, like you said, they were selling these all over the country.
Right.
They were spread out. One thing that you've done, and I'm sure we'll get there, is with Self-Block. You've been here since 2011, going on 24 years, 25 years, soon to be 25 years. All of your units until recently have been in one market.
Yeah.
You're making an impact here. Like,
wait,
what's going through your
I
mind?
think you gave me some extra years there.
Wait a second.
Since 2004, that would be 21 years total.
Yeah, sorry.
Self-Block.
I did give you some extra years.
You're aging me. Like,
I think I meant to say 14 years.
Slow down. Yeah.
with Self-Block, because I can confuse the two dates.
Yeah.
But so 14 years in one market, that's how you make an impact.
Yep.
So, I mean, I know you're not a franchise, but still, like, start locally, create a cult following, and then take that following with you across the country.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many learnings along the journey, and I think right now where we're at today is like we have created something special, a great culture, a great quality product, and I don't want to sacrifice either of that for the sake of growth. Like I don't feel like bigger is always better, faster is better, but at the same time we want to figure out how to scale as fast as we can by keeping and maintaining our quality product and culture, because I think once that starts to deteriorate, that's the beginning of the end. So we're just focused on good quality scale right now.
Yeah. Do you have a vision of where you would like to be? Do you have goals in terms of scale?
Yeah, our goal is to get to about 50 locations in the next 5-6 years.
Okay.
In total.
Beyond that, do you want more?
Yeah, then we're gonna go, then kind of the next stage. When we partnered with Savory, the mantra was 15 to 50. Like we were at like 15 locations. So we're just focused on 50 right now, and then from there it's like 50 to a couple hundred.
Yeah, when you get to, as you start to scale, every time like you hit these like points of evolution where like you have to start changing the way you do things to go further. Like you like, it's like shifting the gears of a car. Yeah. You have to literally like shift the way you operate to get to that next level.
Yeah. And that's where we might start considering franchising, is when we got it really nailed at like, 50-ish or whatever. Unit economics are still great.
Oh man, people tell me with one location that they're going to start franchising.
They're going to start franchising.
I'm like, bro, like chill.
There's so many successful businesses that have franchise, and there's a lot of them that haven't as well. So like I said, we're just focused on doing what we do best, one block at a time. That's what we say.
I love that.
So
go back to the franchise that you were a part of. I want to talk about the exit out of that. Like like what was the breaking point for you?
Yeah.
What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's the profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master on restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
So did that. It's 2004, but during that time, like I was just having to figure it out, you know. It was just married. We were wanting to have a kid. And so I was doing things, I was hustling, man, to build the community there, trying out some new, like just evolving the menu and the product offering. And I was getting it in a pretty good place. Right. But in the meantime, all the other, franchisees were really struggling, and they were actually reaching out to me for like, what are you doing? And giving them some of those ideas. But anyway, the whole thing ended up kind of just falling apart, and there was some, from what I understand, some lawsuits that were going around and stuff like that. So I just approached them and I said, look, it's clearly not working out. Let me just go on my own. I'll do my own thing. You do your thing. Right. And so that's what we ended up doing.
So you basically dissolved the franchise agreement, but you stayed in the game of juice.
Yep. But that location there, we sold. We had a buyer for it.
Did you ever scale beyond that one location?
No, that was the only one. Never felt comfortable to do it, and never wanted to do it. So what happened was, 2006, like I said, I was across the street from GW. I was trying to get as involved as I could with GW, and there's a gym on campus there that had an Einstein bagel in it inside the gym, and the Einstein bagel closed.
Ooh, I like this.
And then I was like, I was friends with an intern,
okay,
who was an intern at the athletic department, and I asked her. Become friends with her as a customer from my shop there. And I said, hey, do you think they would want to put a smoothie shop inside the gym? She said, I don't know. Let me ask. I'm still friends with her to this day, Caroline. She asked the athletic director, whoever it was, and they said, yeah, that'd be great. And I don't know why or how, but they agreed to let me have that space. And that's when I was like, oh, it's time to get out of this one and do my own thing. So we sold that one, got out of the franchise agreement, and I started what was called Campus Fresh on campus at GW in 2006.
Okay.
So Campus Fresh was in the gym there. I did that one completely on my own. My dad retired again. It was second retirement, but then he ended up starting a business brokerage company and bought his first business that came to him. It was a kebab restaurant.
Okay. And
then he bought a kebab restaurant and did that for the next 10 years of his life in his retirement.
Some retirement.
Yeah. But anyway, so then at that point, like I was just completely on my own, and I had the opportunity to open this juice bar on campus at GW. So my idea then was, I'm going to open these things on campuses, like Campus Fresh. I'm going to have Campus Fresh GW. I'm going to have Campus Fresh Georgetown, Campus Fresh George Mason, like whatever. So I opened the one there. I still had no money. And like I said, I was completely on my own. So my wife and I had a 1-bedroom condo.
Can we get into the economics of I love this approach, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that wherever there's people, there's hungry people. And if you can use existing infrastructure to go into, especially your target market, I feel like especially today, I think the younger generation is so focused on like what they're putting into their bodies, probably more so than in 2006, I would imagine.
Back then it was more, smoothie game was more about, there was no cold pressed juice. We juiced on site. The smoothies were more about protein, and if it's hot outside, I want something cold.
So you're going to these places
there was no green smoothies.
There are people waiting for you. Wherever there's people, there's opportunity in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
What was the rent like in this?
The rent was so cheap, man. I think it was under $2,000 a month, and that was all inclusive of utilities and everything. Yeah.
Wow, that's huge. And then with your concept, you don't need a hood, you don't need a range, you don't need any of these things that start putting your.
We go anywhere from 200 to 2,500 square foot.
Yeah. So it was a great opportunity. And then I think that idea of using college campuses to scale would have been great.
Well, what I learned was that I got lucky with that spot because, like I said, it was an Einstein bagel. It was controlled by Sodexo. You know, most college campus food is controlled by like an Airmark, Sodexo, Marriott. Like the Einstein performed so poorly in the gym that they didn't even want the space.
Right. It's kind of an oxymoron. Like why would you put like people are there to like exercise? Like in 2006, I think we knew that like you wanted to avoid carbs, right? Like
right. It's kind of like after your workout. So, but they gave up the space as part of their food contract for the university, and so it was one of the only, might have been the only independent opportunity on campus that wasn't controlled by them. So what I did was when I opened Campus Fresh, my whole approach was I went to Virginia Tech. Like I said, every business at Virginia Tech was involved with campus student life. I noticed none of the business at GW were. So I wanted to really get involved with student life, student organizations, and become a part of the student experience there.
What was the struggle with that? Why didn't it happen, or did it happen?
Why? For me, it happened.
Okay.
That was the success. The other businesses, I didn't see making an effort to be part of the student life
So
there.
2006 to 2014, you have this stretch as an 8-year stretch.
Well, 2011. 2006
Sorry,
to
I don't know
2011.
why. It's the 2004 that keeps messing me up. 2006 to 2011.
Yeah.
So you had this 5-year stretch.
Yeah.
How far did you take it, Campus Fresh?
So like I said, I opened that one with my wife and I had a 1-bedroom condo. I took out a $30,000 line of credit to open that store. That's what it cost me. I built the counters myself. It's in a gym on the campus on the second floor with no exterior signage. You can't get in unless you're a student or faculty, or you have to leave your ID at the front desk to come in. So, you know, it had
barriers there.
It had its own barriers, but it also had built-in business.
It's a new Penn Street, right?
Yeah.
Was it Penn Street that was that road that was next to your last?
The Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, Pennsylvania Avenue, a new barrier.
But the business was built in because we were on the student dining program and all of that. But so over the years, though, because I was so involved with the community, we started bringing people in. There was people that were coming in just to buy something at Campus Fresh. They weren't working out, right? They were leaving their ID. They were working at the GW Hospital, the Department of State, the law firms around the area. They knew it. They heard we were there. The reputation of the product kind of was spreading around the community. So people were coming in the gym, leaving their ID, walking up to the second floor and buying stuff from us.
Wow.
So
that's a testament right there.
That's a testament. And you know, the business, the business, on an annual basis didn't do that great because it's more seasonal because the students are only there, you know, spring and fall semester, and then they're gone. But the cost was so low to operate there that it was profitable enough.
Were you making more than $500 a week?
I was making more than $500 a week, but still not making a ton, man. But I was able to pay off that $30,000 line the first semester, and then I started really hitting the ground, like trying to get other spots at other universities. And everyone was interested. They loved the idea, but getting the space was the challenge.
Right. Because you're already in physical, like you can't just build out of space within an exact. You could, but that'd be expensive.
You could, and then you're dealing with like those other food contracts on campuses. And again, I didn't. Yeah, I was learning as I was going, right? Yeah. And so as I'm learning, I'm like, okay, well, this seems like it's going to be challenging to scale this way. So then I used to live in Arlington before I got married. I lived in Ballston, community in the Arlington area. And I always thought that the Clarendon community in Arlington would be a great spot for what I was doing at GW.
What made it great?
So there's a couple things. Like I said, I lived in Ballston. There's a lot of 20-somethings right out of college that lived in the community. There was a Jamba Juice inside the Whole Foods in Clarendon that I used to go to, right? Before I started my business when I lived there. And I remember there was always a line. And then they Jamba Juice closed inside Whole Foods. And I actually approached Whole Foods about putting my juice bar in there, like what I was doing at GW. They were going a different direction. They didn't want to
Starbucks.
They didn't want to. I don't know what they were doing. I don't think they
There's
ever
a
put
Starbucks
anything
in every
there,
Whole
actually.
Foods now. I think. Is it Starbucks? I'm pretty. Or no, was it? Starbucks. Maybe it's a different concept. But Starbucks is.
I know Starbucks is in a lot of Safeways.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that didn't work out. So then I was like, well, maybe there's other spots. So I was driving around Clarendon, and I saw this spot on the back corner of this building that was on a section of the neighborhood on the block where there's the foot traffic doesn't go back there. It's on the front side of the building. But it was a new exciting project that they were building, 2 new towers, right? But the only spot that was left was on the back corner of this building, 700 square foot with a huge column down the middle.
Does that include kitchen?
Everything. 700 with huge column down the middle. And I had to put in an ADA restroom that takes up like 100 square foot, right? But me still being somewhat young and naive about it all, I said, I could make it work, right? Maybe I wasn't so naive about it because I did make it work. But
so you're in your early 30s at this point.
It sounds about right.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking that. Oh, and across the street from us was a lot, like an undeveloped lot. Clarendon has grown so much over the years. This lot was one of the last lots that wasn't developed. It literally had a business that sold cemetery tombstones in it. Like it had a bank, cemetery, and I think like the CrossFit gym wasn't there yet. It was like a restaurant called like 11th Street Bar or something like that.
So why was that? Was that of interest to you?
No, none of that was of interest to me. But I loved the community. I loved the Arlington community in that neighborhood. And my gamble was that if I put in a business here with an awesome product that this community is going to love, and I get involved with the community, then they were going to come find me. And that's where the name South Block came from, because we were on the South Block of that tower.
Got it.
And I didn't know what I was going to call it because we were called Campus Fresh at GW. And I couldn't call it Campus Fresh. It didn't make any sense. And I was throwing around all these generic names like Arlington Smoothie and things like that. And I literally went to go sign the lease. And it said, you're renting retail space in the South Block Tower. I was like, South Block, that's it. Because that is a cool sounding name. And it speaks to my mission.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't have a defined mission, but I knew that I was going to go in there and build community on that block. And that's the only way the business was going to work. I didn't have to be on the corner of Main and Main. If I was involved with the community, if I was serving an awesome product that community wanted, they would find me and they would tell their friends.
And at this point, when you're dreaming this up, when you're in the visioning phase of what's going on, what did your vision of getting involved with the community look like?
It was I was collaborating a lot with other businesses, fitness businesses in the area, going to their events, their grand openings, going to free workouts that were in the area, and sampling out juice.
So finding your people, right? Like the people that cared about health and saying, how can I help your people with my services?
Yep. So I was literally like, at that point running 2 businesses. I saw the GW one. GW one's still there, by the way, almost 20 years later.
Wow.
It's called South Block. We changed the name after South Block started picking up traction in Clarendon. But it wasn't, when I opened in Clarendon, it wasn't an overnight success either. The first year, literally, I remember myself and one other guy working all winter because that's all I could afford. GW location was closed over winter break. So I would work open to close. Then I'd go to an event maybe in the evening, sample out product. I'd hand out coupons at the Metro. I'd go to, whatever yoga studio I could go to. And
guerrilla marketing,
just getting to know people in the community, getting to know trainers, things like that. And then it really around 2013 started really taking off.
Okay.
I think it was a combination of like me being like just hustling and kind of stubborn and not giving up and finding ways to pivot and evolve.
Yeah. I mean, they say 2 years of operating capital. When you open, you want 2 years of operating capital. If you're going out to get loans, factor in 2 years of what you need to get paid and what you need to pay your people, what you need for rent, because it takes 2 years sometimes of waking up, opening the restaurant yourself. You are the labor cost, right?
Yeah. And see, I didn't know that at the time. I just got lucky.
But not just working from, what time do you go open? Like 8 a.m.?
Yeah.
8 a.m. to what, 3?
8 to 7.
8 to 7. So you're working 8 to 7, 11-hour days, and then you're working another 4 hours on top of that to go guerrilla market.
Man,
it takes 2 years to get the brand out there, to develop the relationships, to be a part of the community.
Yeah, no, this time, we're also growing a family. I had my second daughter in 2010. So the next year I opened South Block. It was really, a struggle to try to find that balance as much as I wanted it. Like I had to make the business work too.
Let's hover here because I think, I want to get into where you are today with going to 20 locations.
Yeah, I need to tell you how I discovered acai bowls too.
Yeah.
That was 2006 early on.
So
might have been 2005. Yeah.
So you started using acai bowls in your Fresh, why do I forget the name? Not Fresh University, but Fresh Campus.
GW Fresh, Campus Fresh.
Campus Fresh. Thank you. So that started at Campus Fresh. The acai bowl. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell that story real quick.
Yeah. So I was in the juice bar at GW one day, and this who I describe as a surfer dude from San Diego came in with a cooler and asked me if he could make me an acai bowl. I had no idea what he was talking about. I never heard of it. I said sure. So he literally jumped behind the counter and started putting stuff in a blender.
Was he selling acai?
He was selling acai.
Okay, I was like, what incentive does this individual have? He's like, you like smoothies, man? You should try this acai.
He was from the West Coast. He was from San Diego, and they were
expanding.
Expanding. It was a company called Sambazon, who's still around, but this was in their early days.
Okay,
they were one of the first to import.
So this is a sales dude, not just some random dude off the
random dude, but definitely a surfer dude.
But he had an intention to sell you acai.
He had an intention to sell me acai. So what they were selling, they were doing pretty good on the West Coast with it, and we're just trying to introduce it out here on the East Coast.
Got it.
So I don't have any concrete evidence of this, but I think I was the first, if not one of the first, to start selling acai bowls on the East Coast.
Yeah, that's way ahead of the curve. 2006.
And what triggered it for me was the guy made me one. I tasted it, and for me, I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever tasted in my life. Like, I just loved it. So I was like, how do I get this stuff? And I started, literally, they would have to put it on dry ice and overnight it to me. I put a bowl on my menu, and I would sell maybe 5 a day. Like nobody knew what it was. But I just I would sample it out to people. I'd try to tell people what it was. And it started picking up a little bit. Still wasn't like the star of the menu. When I opened South Block 2011, this is around the time when Instagram is starting to pop off, and I decided to make half the menu acai.
Why?
Because I loved it. I felt like if I owned it and introduced it to the community, that they would love it too, and that's what would become known for.
First market. Yeah.
A
unique selling proposition too. Like it is so much easier to be number one at something when you create that market.
Yeah.
When I started Restaurant Unstoppable podcast, there were like no restaurant business podcasts.
Oh yeah.
I instantly became number one. Because
you are number one, man. I saw your truck out there. That's impressive.
I know, man. There's so many people out there doing amazing work, and there's more restaurant podcasts.
Yeah.
Man. And that's I'm so stoked because I fell in love with podcasting because like it's such an incredible tool to get information out, to stream information to busy people who don't have time.
I
to
love
sit
it,
down.
dude. I listen to them all the time.
Yeah, and I'm stoked that there's so many podcasts today. But just the idea of being first to market to create, like it's just blue waters. It's like
blue ocean strategy.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. So you go all in on acai. You're first to market. Bring me back to that mindset of why you wanted to do that.
Yeah, and I think I was first to market at a lot of things in this business. It's constantly evolving, and you have to stay on top of it. So acai bowls was the thing. I think as Instagram started becoming popular and people could see pictures of it, that's what really set it off. I also really saw the millennial kind of mindset around eating shift around 2013. You really started noticing this noticeable shift in what people were looking for when they were going out to eat. especially that younger generation.
Yeah, we're with the internet and like Instagram, like also like health trends started to spread.
Yep.
You know?
So we just happened to be there long enough for when people were looking for it.
So with Fresh, I keep on wanting to call it Fresh University.
Campus Fresh.
Campus Fresh.
Yeah.
Where were you by the time you were exiting out of that? Like how much of your P-mix was acai bowls?
Oh man, I'd say it was probably. I mean, the students did love it, but at that time it was definitely more protein, like more smoothies. It was probably 20%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still better than a couple a day, right? So you did scale it.
We did scale it by that time. Yeah.
So you went all in. What was your menu like in 2011 when you opened South Block?
So it was probably 5 or 6 acai bowls, and then a bunch of smoothies, and then we did juicing, but it was still centrifugal juicing, like the juicing you make in the machine on site.
Yeah, like tears it up and separates the juice with centrifugal force.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much work. It's so messy. Like, the machines are hard to maintain.
Yeah.
So that was another kind of first to market is I started doing cold pressed juice before everyone else.
I heard those are really tough with like fibrous like fruits and vegetables too. Like it doesn't
because
like,
you can
like
imagine,
ginger.
man, you're juicing ginger or beets.
Yeah.
And then you got ginger and beet in there. You got to clean the whole thing out before you juice another thing.
So what's the difference between cold press and centrifugal force juicers?
So cold press, I started then. So the evolution was kind of like acai bowls, right? That was like the thing. And it's still to this now it makes up 50% of our sales, right? But then it was like green smoothies. Like, believe it or not, like now green smoothies are everywhere. Like back then, no one was putting kale. Like no one even heard of kale back then. Like you know edible arrangements. Like
it was like the garnish
that
buffet.
makes the bed of the thing, and everyone just threw it away. It was like a throwaway.
Now they're starting to say that kale is like not good. They're saying that it's like it holds on to toxins like no other vegetable does.
Well, I guess if it's not organic, right?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. That's the thing too in this industry, man. There's always like, when we started off, it was like soy milk and then no soy milk,
right.
And then there's like so many pivots in what's good, what's not good. But anyway, so we started. Actually, a friend of mine brought me a menu from, I think it was this place up in New York, and they were like, "Look at this place is like putting kale and spinach in their smoothies." I'm like, "That's pretty sick. I'm gonna do that." So I created a super green smoothie.
Okay, so
that's our number one smoothie to this day.
So 50% acai bowls.
Yeah.
How many different acai bowls were there on the menu?
I mean, at that point, probably 5 or 6. Like now we have, I don't know, maybe 10. And then we have other smoothie bowls too that aren't acai.
How many smoothies did you have in 2011?
We had a lot of smoothies. Honestly,
Ballpark.
like I probably scaled, like probably could have been like 25, 30.
So now we're up to,
but I started scaling. Like that was one of the lessons too. Because when I first opened South Block, by the way, we had wraps, we had paninis, we had bowls, I had an espresso machine. This was all in 700 square foot.
Wow.
Right?
Well, yeah,
so
I think there's a lesson here, right?
Yeah.
That like, what is your one thing? How do you like scale down? I think people think they have to scale up and offer more, but I think the reality is be good at one thing.
Exactly. And you got to nail that.
Yeah. So you had, up to this point, you had 35 products. You have 5 acai bowls. You had up to 30 smoothies and
we were juicing.
And you're juicing. How many different juices did you have?
Probably like another 8 or so.
Okay, so now we're up to 42 plus all the sandwiches and salads and the wraps and stuff. So that's a lot in a 700 square foot. It's more like your kitchen was what 100 square feet.
Kitchen
200 square feet.
It was probably 250.
What about storage? Where are you keeping all this stuff?
Yeah, that was probably 100 square foot.
Yeah, so it just gets.
It was deliveries every day.
Yeah,
I would like my routine was like, I would get some stuff delivered. I'd have to go to Restaurant Depot for some stuff, and I would just fill up my Pathfinder every day. I thought that was gonna be my life, man.
Yeah,
I was like, every day I'm gonna have to be in this line at Restaurant Depot.
When did you start to scale down? When did that realization?
So store 3.
Okay, what year was store 3?
So store 3 was 2015.
Okay, so 4
years
years
after.
in. When did you start turning a profit? 2000. You said 2 years in.
It was. I had always been able to pay myself, even because I was just real. Overhead was low. I was scrappy. But not a ton.
So this is one thing. I think what you did, by the way, I think franchises are a great vehicle to learn the business if you have no prior business. You get literally handed a formula, a step-by-step process how to run this business.
Yeah.
And in that, you can take that framework, that template, that guide,
Yeah.
and then you can take those lessons and you can use that framing in whatever vision you have if
Yeah.
you want to open a restaurant. So I would highly recommend that if you want to open a restaurant, you have no experience, go become a franchisee. Or go work for a franchisee and be a general manager.
Yeah.
Right. Go get that experience, get the systems, and then take those systems and like put them into a different model.
Yeah, I didn't do any. I mean, I didn't learn any of that. I didn't have systems. I figured it out all on my own along the way.
So
and just
what I'm curious
pure
about,
grit.
What I'm curious about is in 2011 when you opened South Block. Did you open with good systems, processes, procedures? You knew about prime costs. You knew about these things, right?
No, I didn't know about.
Wow.
I didn't know about prime costs then.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sound too surprised.
No, I didn't, man. I knew. What I knew was, do I have money left in my bank account? You know what I mean? I had a pretty good idea of like, okay, this is about what it cost me. This is about what I need to sell it for.
Yeah.
Right.
That right there is a testament to how much this franchise did not support you.
Yeah.
Like if you're,
no, I didn't learn any of that
that's
stuff.
bullshit.
Yeah. No,
Sorry.
it was. It was.
It pisses me off. I'd be pissed if you. All right, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I literally like it was sink or swim. I had to figure out stuff along the way, and opened in 2011. Started taking off 2013. The sales literally were like doubling, and then probably even tripling. I mean, that store became a beast to where. So I was cold. We were talking about cold pressed juice for a second there. I started cold pressing juice probably around 2012, 13. Around there too, I started seeing like West Coast. Again, I follow a lot of the West Coast trends because they usually hit first.
What were you using as a cold press machine?
I was using a Norwalk juicer. It's a countertop juicer.
Cylinder pressure.
What you do is they call it like chew the pulp. It goes through this almost like meat grinder, and then you put it in like a cheesecloth type thing, and it's literally a hydraulic press that presses the juice out of it, and then all you're left with is this sawdust pulp.
Okay, I've seen the pure juicer, and I was actually interested in buying one of those, but this Norwalk, I haven't seen that yet. Is that more commercial?
It's an expensive countertop.
$579 on eBay right now, but
oh yeah, I think new they're like a couple thousand.
Wow.
So I had one of these machines, right, and we would juice at the GW location, and I hired these two ladies to juice for me, and they would start juicing in the morning, and they wouldn't be done till the evening. And my routine every day was I'd work at South Block, I'd go pick them up at GW with all the juices, drop them off at home, take the juices to South Block in Clarendon, and we do it all again the next day.
Wow.
And we'd probably make like 50 juices a day. It wasn't even that much.
well, yeah, it's a slow process.
And it was a small juicer.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like, you're not doing juices to order with this. There's no way.
No,
Yeah.
those are cold press. So the cold press will last longer than a centrifugal juice. Centrifugal juice, you have to drink pretty much right away.
Well, you have all the pulp and all that stuff in there where you're pretty much filtering out all the pulp with the cloth.
All the pulp is filled. You're just squeezing the juice out of it. You're bottling it, and you can sell it for up to 5 days.
Okay.
So we put it on the shelf, and then it became like a thing where that's when juice cleansing got really popular.
Yeah.
And everyone was buying juice cleanses. So we would do that, and we started really kind of getting, like we were getting people coming over from DC across the Potomac to come to South Block. Like people were coming from all over. So I knew we had something, my challenge was I couldn't make enough juice on that small juicer. So I bought a big juicer. It's called an X1. It's as tall as me. It's like 6 foot tall.
Is that a Norwalk as well?
No, that's a Good Nature X1 juicer. I bought one of those guys, and I needed a place to make my juice because I couldn't make it at GW. It was too small. So there was someone I was buying paleo protein bars from, who used a kitchen in Falls Church to make her bars. And she said, I think this place has space for you if you want to make your juice there. And so I said, okay, cool. Introduced me to the owner. then we ended up working out a thing, and we shared this kitchen space in the back. It was like a catering. They had a catering business. She was making her bars. I was making my juice, and they had a little cafe in the front. And so we were making our juice there, and we were able to make more juice now. And things were really taking off. Like the business was taking off. The community was loving it. Like we were really hitting our stride. And that's when I really started thinking about, well, not yet. I didn't start thinking about reducing the menu. Soon I'll get to that. But we were juicing there. And then after a couple months, this lady comes in and she's like literally screaming, "Everybody get out. We're closing. We're bankrupt." And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like here I am with this is a $20,000 juicer.
Jeez.
And we're making juice here every day of the week. My business relying on it. And they're bankrupt because there was a bad business deal that happened where she thought she sold her business to this guy who ended up screwing her in that none of the bills were in his name and they were in her name, and she didn't find out till a couple $100,000 in debt and had to declare bankruptcy.
Ugh, why?
I don't know,
what
man.
incentivizes people to do that?
I don't know. I mean, it was a shock to all of us. So what ended up happening, actually, she ended up doing really well for herself, and things ended up great. She has this big catering kitchen, I think, out in Chantilly now, and she's crushing it. So that's really good. But at that time, it was obviously like really stressful for everybody, and so they closed the business that day, and there was all this talk about the bankruptcy was going to come and like lock the doors, confiscate all the banks were going to come confiscate all the equipment. And here's my $20,000 juicer.
Does she own that, or you own that?
I own the juicer.
So they can't touch that, can they?
Well, what I heard from my attorney was they don't stand there and take inventory who owns what.
So just get it out.
Did everything. They'll take everything. So I got a truck and I took my juicer. It was a Friday. I took it over to GW just to take it out of that space. In the meantime, I called the landlord for that space. And I said, "Hey, I'm with South Block. We've been in the back making juice in the shared kitchen. I'd be interested in talking about taking this lease if it's available. If you guys are interested." And luckily, they'd heard of South Block and they were excited that we were there actually, because they were kind of in a tough spot too. And they said, "Yeah, we'd love to have you."
Remember what year this was?
2000. This was 2014.
Okay, so this is 3 years in.
Yeah,
3 years in. You're still at one location though.
I have the one South Block and the one GW.
Oh, that's right, because you still had from the previous Fresh Campus Fresh. I'll get
and then by that time I had changed Campus Fresh to South Block, so I had 2 South Blocks.
Got it. So you're almost using.
And by the way, I told my wife when I opened South Block, I said, if I can make this work and GW work, that's all we'll need. Like I didn't have plans of like scale.
Hope she's happy with you.
Which just kept going, man. It was organic. And also I realized like just my nature is like, I want to keep things going. Right. But at the time I was just like, let's not roll the dice. If I got 2 that are doing good, I'm good. Right. But then it just luckily started taking off and there was opportunities for us. So, but that third one was complete by chance because of that bankruptcy. So it turned into our third location. So contacted the landlord. They were excited we were there. I had to buy everything off of online bankruptcy auction. Literally the hand sync, like everything that was in there. I'm online, all happening at the same time, trying to bid on everything in my space that I had signed a lease on.
To keep it.
Yeah. Because I had to buy it off. I pretty much got everything.
That's awesome. How many square footage was this place?
That's 2,500.
Okay.
Half was commissary, half was cafe. So it ended up working out great for me because I needed a larger kitchen to make our juice.
Commissary.
And the rent was so cheap there because it's down this side street in Falls Church. But now it's one of our busiest locations. So because people found us back there too. So I had a proper juice kitchen now. And also, by the way, I hired everyone there that had just lost their jobs. And they became my team there. And now we had a proper juice kitchen and our third location. I was able to flip that for $50,000. We turned it into a South Block, and that became our third location. And from there, stores 3 to 7 happened in 12 months.
You flipped your third location for $50,000 all in.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's friggin' awesome. 2,500 square feet. So now you're also tripling your footprint from your original South Block.
Yeah.
What percentage of that was, or, was it like 30% like production and like the rest like
50-50.
50-50?
50 was production, 50
Okay.
Well, some of the production was shared kitchen space though too.
So 1,200.
Like, we shared like the walk-in and stuff.
So you're like a little less than half in terms of like front of house experience. You're a little less than a little more than double the original.
The original, yeah.
So one thing we didn't talk about, that original location, 700 square feet, how'd you get the money to open that?
That's a funny story too. So you remember the 2008 recession?
Yep.
So I didn't have any money invested in stocks. So I've been able to put away a little bit of money from the GW location. My wife and I, like, we were in a 1-bedroom condo. Like, we weren't spending a lot of money. So I was able to put some money away. But then also when the market crashed, I had no money in the stock market. So I decided maybe a good time to buy some stocks.
Right. Things are low.
And I just bought stuff that I knew, like, like Disney.
Safe deals.
Stuff like that. And made money on that. So when it came time to open that, I basically sold everything that I had, all my stocks, and maxed out my credit cards.
How much did you need to open that first location?
I think that one,
because it was bare bones, right? It was before construction. You had to go in there and like you needed to build out bathrooms.
But again, like, I think I just got lucky, man. There's so much that could have gone wrong because I didn't know a lot about TI, and like I didn't have a contractor. I hired an architect who normally did home architect work, residential architect work. I didn't have a contractor, so I ended up using the contractor who was doing the landlord work on the space. The landlord was awesome to me. It's Saul, BF Saul, who was just a great partner for my first location, and used their contractor. And I think it ended up costing me like $150K to build that out, which I was lucky because
that's not bad.
I don't know how. Yeah, I mean, it was a small space, but yeah, we're spending more than that now. And
then you tripled the size in your second, or technically third location, at 1/3 the cost.
Yes. And then I had a lot that were less than that coming up.
So you didn't go to any investors. You just used your good fortune in
I used my own
stock.
Along the way, just kept using my own whatever I had, cash and credit, or cash flow from the business.
Yeah, I think also too the power of doing something like a South Block, acai bowls, cold press smoothies, the level of hardware and equipment you need to put into that place to get started is pretty minimal.
Yeah, equipment package is pretty low. Yeah, no hood.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like refrigeration, freezers, blenders.
Did you buy any used stuff?
I don't think I got a lot of used stuff, but I would buy a lot of stuff off Webstaurant store, like Advantco refrigerators and freezers.
Was that a good experience?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good. I mean, it's a pain in the butt. When I opened my fourth location, it's a type of thing like my freezer's coming. I had to be there to meet the truck. And, oh, by the way, the truck only drops the freezer on the sidewalk, and then you got to figure out how to bring it in.
Yeah.
And so me and this other guy, we're just like, and it's upstairs.
Where is the Webstaurant stores, like factory or like their like distribution center located?
Yeah, I think they have a couple across the country. So.
I would love a tour of one of those places.
Yeah.
Like a kid in a candy
really.
shop, dude. It'd be so much fun to walk around. They have so much stuff.
Well, we don't use, there's some things we buy from them now, but now we have equipment package with Singer EVI.
Okay.
That does all that.
So fast forward 2 years, 2014 is when you open your third location, or wait,
It ended up opening 2015. 14 is when all the drama went down.
Got it.
And yeah.
And at this point, how were you evolving as a restaurateur?
Yeah.
Were you making were you being better about tracking the number? Were you learning about things like prime cost? Like, did you know what your percent profit was?
Yeah, I had an accountant, and I still didn't really know prime cost. I think that came later, but I ended up getting really sophisticated around this stuff, right? I think in the early days, I was just like more of running it like a mom and pop operation type thing, right? So I was getting a little bit more sophisticated around those numbers, but still probably didn't know terminology like that.
Yeah. When was your next point of evolution?
so next point of evolution was really, so that third location is when I really started thinking about simplification of the menu. So we didn't sell any of our wraps or paninis or bowls or anything at that third location. I still had them at the original South Block in Clarendon.
If you could go back and do it again, would you do it like that, or would you have just dropped it everywhere? Or
if I were to go back, I probably would have dropped it everywhere.
Okay.
But those wraps were popular, and to this day, people will.
You don't want to piss anybody off.
I don't want to piss anyone off, but what I learned was what seems to you as a business owner is going to potentially ruin your business. Like it might be like 2 weeks of hardship, and then the business adjusts, right? Yeah. So, but to this day, people still ask for some of those wraps. We used to do some like brown rice burritos that were pretty tasty. And to this day, people still ask about them. But then I did, after I opened Falls Church without them, then, like I said, we had the opportunity to open 4 more, like really quickly after the third one. I decided it made up about 15% of our sales at Clarendon, the food did, and the coffee. And I said, so made a decision to just get rid of all the food, because it was making up 90% of our headache, 90% of our mistakes, and 15% of our sales, right? Training was harder, inventory, and also, like you said,
cost of goods.
Customers were telling us who we were and what we should be focused on. And that was clearly acai bowls, smoothies, and juices. So I said, let's forget that noise. Let's focus all of our training, all of our marketing, all of our efforts on what we're best at and what customers want us for.
And that was 2015?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Did you learn anywhere that this is like, but that scaling down by focusing on doing one thing really well, or at least a handful of things like frozen, like the juices, the liquids, like did you learn that, or was this just instinctual?
I think it was instinctual. I think it was just trying to simplify the operation in my life, right? My team's life, making the business easier so that we could scale it. Like I said, we started after we opened in 2015, that third location. We got approached by four other locations right away. So that's when I started thinking, well, I opened those 4, and that was a whirlwind year. I mean, the brand.
In 4 years you opened 4?
4 locations in the next year.
Oh, okay. Wow. So
in
you went
12
from
months.
3 to 7.
We went from 3 to 7.
Wow.
So one of the locations was this lady who was a customer of ours in Clarendon, who was developing a building in Georgetown, who just loved South Block and wanted it in her building. That ended up being our Georgetown location. And she paid for the build out. We just had to pay for equipment. So that one ended up costing us like $50,000.
Did you learn more about TI at this point?
No, I still didn't have TI in these spaces.
Okay.
Because it was like independent things. It was like, we will build it and you just bring the, FF&E.
What's FF&E?
Furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
And TI is for tenant improvements.
Improvement allowance, yeah.
So, I mean, this stuff gets mentioned often, but I try to remember sometimes people on the show. Might be
exactly. That was me back then. I had no idea what that stuff was. So that was Georgetown. Then Union Market, we've been in there since 2016. And that one cost me, I don't know, I think like $15,000. So I was able to grow without a lot of money these next 4. So we got Union Market, we're still there. By the way, that's 200 square foot. That's our highest grossing location in
200 square feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
We crank in that location.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then we did Del Rey, which was a yoga studio that the lady built out with a juice bar in the front and just wanted an operator. And she approached me about taking over the juice bar space and operating. And so that was one of those 4
Another
locations.
Turnkey situation.
Another turnkey. Yeah. That was the one where I had to bring the freezer up the stairs when it was dropped on, because that's all I needed. Everything else was there. Even the equipment was there on that one. It cost me a freezer to open that location.
So that's 3 locations. What's the
3?
4th?
So then the 4th was, I became friends with this customer of ours, Daniel Brindley, who's one of the owners of Jam and Java. He and his brothers own Jam and Java, and it's in Vienna. And I would take my kids to Jam and Java because they would do daytime like rock shows for kids, like Rock Rhinoceros was a band that would come there. And they had a cafe in the front. And I would love it because I could go there and have my coffee while my kids were like having fun with the kids' rock band. And half the time I would go there, the coffee would be out of service, right?
Oh man!
So I got to know Daniel. He was a yoga instructor at Down Dog Yoga across the street from the Clarendon location, and got to talking to him. And I was like, "Yeah, man, I love your place, but half the time when I go there, the coffee service is down." He's like, "Yeah, we're like music guys. We're not really cafe people." And I'm like, "Why don't you let me run your cafe?" He loved the idea, so we just converted it into a South Block in the front. It was literally South Block by day, and at night they do like proper like rock bands and a bar. So we would set up our blenders like on the beer cooler and then take them down at 5 o'clock or whatever time we closed. I think it was like 5 there because they had to set up for night service. And by day it was South Block, and at night it was Jam and Java. And so we would service we would be open when there were shows and when there was not shows for the daytime shows. And that we were there 4 years, and that store started cranking to where during COVID, the Starbucks next to us relocated to a drive-through. So we took the Starbucks and converted that a few years later.
Okay,
but we were there for like 4 years. So that was the fourth one. So we did those 4, and then none of those 4 really cost me a lot of money.
Well, yeah, all in for those 4 locations. I'm like trying to keep track. You're like right around 100,000.
Yeah.
That's
for all 4.
That's wild.
Yeah, and it was like such rapid growth, and it's still to this point. Like I had training and stuff like that, but like it was more of like a day training. Like you'd show up and maybe 2 hours of like, here's how you make a smoothie, and now you're off and running. But and I had hired this guy who's still with me. I have a lot of people that've been with me. I've one girl, Sharnita, who's been with me 19 years since the franchise day. Another guy's been with me 17 years. My first manager at South Block in Clarendon, Jose, he's been with me 14 years. And this guy, Adam, who's been with me 10 years, he was hired when I opened the 3rd location in Falls Church. He applied for an hourly block star position, and I offered him a vice president role because I just knew he was a really responsible dude. And I was like, I'm going to need more help. And so I it was the best interview probably of anyone's life. So anyway, we were doing a lot of the work to get those stores open, and hiring people just to fill shifts, right?
Yeah.
What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's the profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master on restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
Let's pause here because I have some questions, and you dropped a lot on us. So by 2016, you're at 7 locations. Mm-hmm. You mentioned early on that your strategy was going to be a part of the community.
Yeah.
And I think as I'm just listening to your story, the power of being a part of your community, it's not just about relationships with your customers that are just purely like transactional, like they're like paying you for food, but like you're networking and you're meeting your future business partners. And I think that's one of our core values here at Restaurant Unstoppable. It's we have integrity. We are students. We are educators. We are communicators. We are collaborators. We show up. We have fun. That part of collaboration, understanding that it takes a tribe. You cannot do it all yourself today. I think as the industry gets more and more competitive, you need to learn how to collaborate within your 4 walls and beyond your 4 walls with your community and find opportunities to create those win-win situations. That's absolutely one of the most like those core values are like the elements of successful people. They have integrity. They're always learning. They're sharing what they learn. They're lifting people up around them. They're great communicators. Like visions and goals and values are shared and echoed.
Yeah.
And they work with other people to make it happen.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why these are my core values.
Juices flowing.
Yeah,
Yep.
man.
No
So,
pun intended.
but I just want to point out this idea of making it about community. And I think that the restaurant industry was born out of community. I think it drifted, like it drifted to this point where it became so transactional. And I'm going to sound like a broken record for my listeners, but literally restaurants wore like if you in like the 17th century or the 16th century, I can't remember exactly when, if you wanted to open a town,
yeah.
If you're like a settler and you're like, I'm going to stake my stick here and we're going to call this town, Self Block Town, right?
You're off and running.
The first thing you'd have to do to have Self Block Town to come into existence, you needed not a bar, a public house. The first thing you needed to do to be like qualify for a town was you need to establish a public house.
Okay.
Not a post office, not a church. A public house. And that public house was where you went and you got your news, you got your beer, you got it's where everything was. It was the OG internet. Your entertainment, your
the information hub.
Yeah, your what's the word? Your drama.
Entertainment?
No, like your where people talk shit about each other. The
debates
news, debates. No, when you're not supposed to be spreading rumors, gossip. It's where you got your gossip. It's like literally where everything happened was a public house. It was the heart of a community, and we kind of drifted from that.
Yeah,
where like the food and beverage industry became more about commerce and transactions.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so much, if you focus on community and you keep that at the front of your mind and you focus on relationships, all of your opportunities were born out of relationships up to this point.
Yeah. Exactly.
What's going through your mind as I'm saying this?
No, that's 100% right. I mean, I don't think it was intentional at the time. It was just, I'm there every day. I'm part of the business. I'm meeting people. I'm talking to people. I'm collaborating on ideas. I love kind of getting creative with people and talking about visions that they have and ideas that they have and ideas that I have, and see if there is a win-win opportunity. So we did a lot of that. Like I said, I don't think it was intentional. It was just things that happened. And, I think the brand was really taken off, and it was appealing to a lot of people. So that helped us kind of become part of the conversation.
Yeah. So you've been sharing a lot of the story of Self Block up to this point, but what up to this point, 2016 in the timeline, 7 locations, what were your personal challenges?
Well, I mean, at that time, it really went from having to do everything to learning how to delegate, which was a challenge for me because I wanted to do and control everything. And I realized that I had to let go of things in order to scale.
When did that start to happen for you?
Store 3.
Okay.
That's where Adam came in, and I needed someone responsible that I knew if I asked him to do something that it would get done. Like it's like if you ask someone to do something for you and it doesn't, and you come back at the end of the day and it wasn't done, then it's hard for you to trust that person to do anything for you, right? But you love those people and that's what I do. I hire off personality. I don't care what your resume says. I hire off who you are as a person, integrity. Responsibility is such a big one there. It's like someone that you just know, if you ask to take something that it's going to get done, you don't have to follow up, you don't have to worry about it, you don't have to think about it. So when you can find those people around you, and then it makes delegating so much better, so much less stressful. So learning how to delegate, and then like I said, scaling so fast that I didn't have a mission. I didn't even know what the businesses had missions or core values or anything. Like, I think we had ours, but there was nothing defined. So we opened these 7 locations so quick. We were just trying to fill bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say. So I looked backwards after we opened the 7th location. That was really like the pivotal moment for me to say, I wasn't proud of where we were as a business, meaning that I wanted to have a business that I knew my friends, my family, when they came in, experienced that it would be something that I would be proud about.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that we didn't have good people working for us. It was that I didn't have the right systems and training for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to turn away opportunity. One of the lessons too I've learned is like, if you just focus on doing a good quality job, the opportunity, and you focus on relationships and taking care of people and developing a reputation, being a part of your community, the opportunity comes to you. But you do have to be careful that, you can't get over your skis. And if you don't take the time to tap the brakes to put things like systems, processes, procedures in place, like you get all these liabilities and things start to fall apart. You develop a bad, like you can lose it overnight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you talked about the getting better at delegating. You talked about, you weren't taking the time to define your vision, your mission, your values.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, I want to point out that doesn't mean that you don't have a culture. Your culture is what happens every day. Your culture is reality. So you had a culture.
Yeah, but I wasn't intentional about it.
Right.
And I think that was a pivotal moment for me that is stuck with us to this day, was to say, I'm going to make this business, what I said in the beginning, people over profits. I'm going to make it all about people, not even the product, right? We have an awesome product. I'm not worried about that, right? I got to make it about the people. And so this is what's kept me inspired to this day, is that I look at our business as a leadership development company that happens to sell smoothies, right? And that's what I started focusing on. And it started with recruiting and bringing people on the team who shared that passion with me. All I cared about after Store 7 was I started getting really into like leadership books and company culture books and people development books and things like this. And I started interviewing people and talking to them about company culture and people. And the ones that like I would spend an hour, sometimes 2 hours, that we would just be sharing conversation around our passion for people development and culture. Those are the people I hired. So I started filling my team with people that are with me to this day on the corporate support team, who have helped build the company, because we all had the shared mission and vision of building an awesome company culture and building an awesome leadership development program. So I started like just hiring people like that, and then refocusing on our recruiting, on our training, on our systems. And then store number 8 was super pivotal for me as well.
Tap the brakes, store number 8. What were the books that most inspired you in terms of leadership and culture? Like, what were the ones that really like hit with you?
Yeah. Energy Bus was one of them.
Who's the author of that?
I can't remember the author of it right now.
I'll look it up. Keep going.
I'm really bad at remembering names and stuff.
Me too.
So Energy Bus, but the premise is basically like you're taking a bus to work every day, and everyone knows that one person or that one passenger coming on the bus who's coming in complaining about the weather every day, right? Or whatever it is, like, oh my God, it's going to be raining today, or oh my gosh, did you see, I had to get up so early this morning, or oh my God, another Monday. So what happens when you have that energy vampire is either the people around them are going to start complaining too, or the positive people are going to get off the bus because they don't want to hear it every day.
Yeah.
So just really managing culture through that perspective, like kind of taking inventory of like, what do my passengers on the bus look like?
That was John Gordon, by the way.
John Gordon, that's right.
What else?
Blue Ocean Strategy. Okay. That was an early one that really taught me, look, let's not focus on what other people or what other competition is doing. Let's just do what we do best in communities that we feel like would appreciate our product, that need our product. And let's just focus on us. Let's focus on what we do the best that we can. That's all that we can control, right?
W. Chan Kim and Renee Morborgen. Does that sound familiar?
That sounds it. Yeah. Blue Ocean Strategy.
Sorry, Renee.
What's another one? Great Game of Business.
Ooh, yeah, Jack Stack.
Yeah. I really, this was a pivotal moment in really getting sophisticated around our numbers. I was introduced through Scott Shaw, who is the building owner at our Old Town location, which was store number 8. He introduced me to Amy, who owns Amy's Ice Cream in Austin, Texas, who incorporated Great Game of Business in her ice cream shops down in Austin, like a cult following ice cream shop down there. I think they only have like 15 locations, but community loves
I'm going
them.
to Austin, FYI. I
Dude,
know it's the VIA
check out-
313 boys down there. I've had them on the show a bunch of times.
Oh, those guys are awesome.
I should reconnect with them too while I'm out there.
They're great. Yeah. So anyway, check out Amy's when you're down there. But so learned about Great Game of Business and how to incorporate that into my business. So I created this. It's basically open book management.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd get to that.
Yeah. So I created a game around South Block I used to play high school basketball.
Define open book management before you get into the game.
So there's different ways you can do open book management. I wanted to simplify open book management where it's like you share your numbers, your P&L, your profit and loss statement with your employees, so they have insight into what's happening in the business. Because a lot of times it's just the business owner that can see that, and it's not shared with the employees.
What happens when you share that?
So my whole philosophy was not only around the numbers, but around everything in the business. I think back to me sitting in that cube before I started my business and how uninspired I was and why I wanted to start my own business. And I recognized that it's selfish of me and naive of me to think and believe that my team is going to share my passion around this business unless I invite them into that story and invite them into the journey with me and give them opportunities like I have with this business. Otherwise, why would they care?
Yeah.
So
the Great Game of Business, the idea is like it's a game. It's like what we're doing. This is a game, and the key, the KPIs, the P&Ls, all this information, the books is the scorecard, and it becomes a game against yourself. Your biggest competition is who you were yesterday, who you were last week, who you were last year, and the game becomes how can we beat the past version of ourselves, and then you have to keep score though. Every game has a score. And when you pull your people into the game and you teach them the rules of the game, then you track your score. Like now it becomes like this, it becomes fun. It becomes the great game of business.
Right.
Did I cut you short?
No. I was just gonna go into a little bit more detail about.
You said you built a game.
My game.
Yeah.
I wanted to simplify because one thing I learned, like when I interview people for jobs too, I use that as an opportunity for me to learn from other people's experiences in other businesses, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they were confused about, what they weren't confused about. And a lot of people were confused about, managers were confused about reading their P&Ls and how that impacted their bonus. A lot of people don't even know how their bonus was calculated. So I decided like, we don't need to get into all the weeds of the P&L. And for me, like I said, I was learning this too after Store 7. This is when I was starting to learn tracking my COGS and labor and all of this, my prime costs. So I made a game that was just simply, what are the controllable numbers that a store manager has control over? We call them our head coaches. I made the game around basketball because like I said, I played high school basketball. So it's 4 quarters in the year. And we had a scoreboard, big whiteboard in the back kitchen in Falls Church, dry erase board. And we would track COGS, labor, and your guest experience score.
Okay.
And that was your 3 numbers. That's it. Because the way I saw it is the only thing, like I'll take care of like what our fixed costs are, right? Our rent, our operating costs. Operators, you just need to worry about managing your COGS, your labor, and your GX, your guest experience score. I took those 3 scores combined would give you one score out of 100%. So obviously 100% the best. Right.
So were each of those worth 33%? Is that the best score you could get?
Yep. We just combined all 3. But the one lesson I learned through that game was you have to make the guest experience score the number one most important number on that scorecard.
So would that make up, would it be like if we're trying to get to 100, you get 3, you could do like 40. I'm so bad at math, man. It's embarrassing.
If you're doing like what's the score?
25, 50, like the guest experience makes it like 50% of like the total.
I didn't weigh it higher.
Okay.
I made it the most important in that every end of the quarter huddle, we called it, we would give awards. And we really made whoever had the highest GX score, whichever store, was the star. Like they would get to sign the basketball. They get some kind of gift card from me. They get a picture with me. Like that was really celebrated in our company.
Yeah.
Who had the highest GX score. And we would never allow, like if your COGS and labor were great, but your GX score was low, that wasn't good, right? What I noticed is if you start telling your store management to focus on getting your labor down, bad habits are created.
Why?
You're cutting shifts just to get your labor down. Now you're creating a worse guest experience, a worse team experience too. The team is working there is in the weeds because they don't have enough help, and you're not allowing the business to grow because you don't have enough people there. So I never put a lot of pressure on. I made the labor achievable, but didn't put pressure in a way that would impact the guest experience or the team experience, right?
So you're measuring labor, cost of goods, and guest experience. Then how are you like getting the measurement for like, how are you going about the process of actually getting your cost of goods and getting your labor? Were you using technologies and tools, or did you have like spreadsheets?
Yeah, at that point we had bookkeepers.
Okay.
Who would give us those numbers, and then I had a scale of like whatever it was. If your COGS were 25 to 29%, that's 100%. 30 to 32 is 95%. So whatever it was, there was a scale based on your percentage of COGS, and same with labor.
Okay.
And so then you would get like a 90 for COGS, a 90 for labor, and a 95 for GX.
How are you measuring GX? That was my next question.
So GX, now we're using Marquee, which will do the math for us. But then this is just recent too, Marquee. But actually, to this day, we're starting next quarter using Marquee. Right now, what we're doing is we're taking all of our positive reviews, which we've just determined 4 and 5 stars on Yelp and Google are positive, 3 and less are negative. And you just tabulate. So say you have 10 reviews, right? You have, and then you have 7 that are positive because they're 4 and 5. And 3 that are negative, you have a score of a 70. Right?
Okay. So is it like a mean, kind of an average, or?
Yeah, you're just taking the percentage of positive versus negative reviews.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah. So the reason why I stress so much GX score is because I strongly believe GX score, if used properly, is a crystal ball into knowing what you need to fix in your business before it impacts your profit. Like in other words, if you're properly tracking GX, what you don't want to do, and I used to do this in the early days, like every time we get a bad Yelp review, my entire day would be ruined. And I would stress about the one little thing that maybe wasn't even a problem we had to fix, right? It was a one-time occurrence, whatever. You shouldn't change your whole business because of that. But then you have to start looking for patterns, right? What are the guests telling you? Wait time's too long, missing toppings on their bowl, whatever it is, and you're looking at this consistently. Is this happening at every location, one location? Then when you start seeing those patterns, you can correct it. And you can correct it early enough if you're paying close enough attention before it impacts your sales.
Yeah.
So that's why I think GX is the most important number.
100%. I have to agree with that. And I think to your point earlier, if you focus on cost of goods, if you focus on labor, then you start like really hurting your business by getting less valuable quality products, right?
Yeah.
So the quality is going down, and then the
COGS,
experience
you're putting
is going,
less toppings, and the customers aren't happy because you're trying to keep the cost down.
Less toppings, poorer quality products, and then with labor, you have less people to do a good job.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to like have some standards.
Yeah.
But really that guest, if you are the best at what you do and you're listening to what people are saying and you're taking that data, you're not reacting to everything that's said, but you're looking for the patterns. And if something comes up over and over again, well, maybe it's time to sniff your own pits.
Yeah.
A line from Scott Lawton.
Yeah.
I have to maybe I'm the problem and we could be better. Maybe our customers are onto something.
Yeah.
Right. So it's super valuable. We have 11 minutes left together. I want to respect your time.
Oh.
And we are at 7 locations.
We might be able to go a little bit longer.
Okay. Well, I want to respect your time. I don't want to get you in trouble with your next appointment. But, I mean, it sounds like when was, so at 7 locations, 2016, when did you, it sounds like you tapped the brakes.
Yes. Yeah. Tapped the brakes and kind of refocused on building my team with the right folks that shared my passion for company culture. And at that moment, I decided that we were going to focus 100% on building a positive company culture around our business.
And that was 2016.
Probably 17 at that point.
Okay.
You know,
I think we got into a lot of how you did that, right? With the different books that you got. Or is there more? Before you dive into that, I just want to kind of like 2016 to 2025.
Yeah.
Just hit the milestones.
Yeah.
So we can just
So then kind
of no detail, just milestones.
So, well, I mean, store 8 was a big milestone where I opened that store with Scott Shaw, who built that store out, and I ended up, I learned a lot about building out stores with that, and I still use the same architect, same GC, same attorney. A lot of my professional team came from that location.
What year was that?
That was 2018.
Okay, so you took a 2-year break before going to another location. I love that. Okay, so when was your 9th location?
Let's see, what was number 9? Was it Ballston? I believe. Did Ballston?
What year was that?
2019.
Okay.
And then we did Roslyn 2019 as well. This is a good problem to have where I can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, you're doing good when you can't remember the years you opened all of your restaurants.
Yeah, and then Roslyn opened right before COVID, in the fall there.
So did you take a break in basically during 2020? Were you tapping the brakes?
We were well, when you mean when COVID hit?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, at that point, it was just we were, and again, I think this is where our focus on company culture just really paid dividends for us. Was day one, my message to the company was that we were going to do whatever it took to take care of our people.
Okay.
Whoever wanted to work, keep working. We're going to keep the guests safe, the team safe. I stopped taking a salary. I just wanted to make sure we could pay everybody.
You have money put away at this point, I'm assuming. It sounds like up to this point, you've been very conservative, fiscally responsible.
Yeah. At this point, it was okay. And I could afford not to pay myself. So I wanted to make sure that we could continue to keep the business open, operating, and pay our team.
Got it.
And the team saw that. And I think that one of the lessons out of that was that building trust with people, with your team, with your community is not an easy thing to do. But it's a very easy thing to break trust, right? So anything you can do to invest in building trust is worth the expense. So even if it cost us money during COVID to do that, it was worth every penny to be able to show that we are who we said that we are when it really came down to making the tough choices, right?
Yeah, there's an amazing book out there by Stephen R. Covey's son, Stephen something else, initial Covey.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, second Stephen. Can't remember. The Speed of Trust. It's an amazing book. I should probably figure out what his middle initial is before I get him on the show. I would love to get that guy on the show, but trust is so powerful. Yeah. Trust is like a lubrication for your business. Things just move when there's trust. So I wouldn't mind going more into that. I mean, we got to get you back on the show, man, because there's so much more I want to talk about.
No, we can keep talking.
Yeah. So 2020, you were at 10 locations. Since 2020,
during 2020, that's when we relocated the Vienna location, and we opened our Logan Circle location.
So you're at 11 locations in 2020, and since 2020, you've since opened. You're at 19 now, so an additional 8 locations. So the past 4 years, really, you've kind of gone gangbusters, and you've accelerated.
Well, what we saw coming out of COVID was that we were a business that fared pretty well, and we came out of it the other side with a lot more opportunities.
Yeah, because a lot of restaurants closed.
There's a lot more real estate available. I mean, it was tough. Like in the especially the first year or two after, staffing was tough and everything. But I think again, when you have a good culture, the community talks and you get a reputation.
Yeah.
And so people want to work for places like
Right.
that. So
There's 3 things I want to talk about.
yeah.
How to build trust, your current tech stack today,
Yeah.
and then I would really be interested to learn more about what it's been like to work with Savory and why you made that decision to
Yeah.
get the, private equity.
Yep.
So trust. Give us a one-liner or maybe 2 or 3 lines. How do you build trust?
Well, I'm very collaborative, so I don't keep anything a secret with my team. And I think when you are an open book and you invite the team for ideas and opinions on direction and thoughts, that makes people feel valued and trusted. So I think building trust in that way where there's no walls up between me and my
Vulnerability.
team. Yeah. And I think just, also like giving them insight in the business, like through the game, like through profit sharing. Like when we did the deal with Savory, all of my team on the support team, like they all got a payday too. It wasn't just me. They get flex unlimited PTO.
Wow.
I wanted them to have similar benefits of ownership that an owner would have.
How do you structure your profit sharing?
So it's structured to where, well, we have two parts of it now. For the support team, they get a quarterly bonus.
What is your support team?
They're like our corporate team. Like
Anybody with an executive in front of their name?
I don't have any executives right now. I have a couple VPs. I have a VP of supply chain, who's Adam. VP of facilities, who's my brother, who joined me 8 years ago. VP of ops. I have a marketing director. I have a learning and development director.
So
Yeah.
vice presidents and directors.
Yep.
And what do you call this team? Support team?
Support team.
And they all have profit sharing.
They all have profit sharing. So they get I take a percentage of the profits every quarter, goes in a pool, and they all have a certain percentage of units, we call it, phantom appreciation rights. And they get paid out literally a percentage of our profits every quarter.
So they're getting a cut of the profit of the business.
Yep.
What percentage of profit is being diced up between them and you?
We take 2.5% of the store level profit
Okay.
that goes into the profit pool.
Okay. Well, at the store. Okay, cool. But when you're doing like
5%
profit,
Yeah.
like that's good.
Yeah.
And there's like what is
Well,
that
the
like?
cool thing about it too is like it grows with the business. So every time we open a location, everyone's excited because that's more money in the profit pool.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing too that I learned along the way is like sometimes people like the owner's excited because you're opening business and you're growing the business, but sometimes the team is like that just equals more work for me.
Right.
And then it comes a question of like, can I get paid more?
Yeah.
Can I get a bigger bonus? So it's built in success for the team as we're growing the business, right?
Yeah. So, oh man, so much information is like being locked in my head right now. I'm trying to get it out. So, the other thing you said was you offer unlimited PTO.
Yeah.
Is that what I heard?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do you structure that?
I treat everyone's expected to act like an owner of the business. Like, look, if you have everything that's on your plate taken care of, or someone's covering it, yeah, go.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you got to figure it out, right? So, but it's it's very casual. Everyone is responsible and.
So back to profit sharing. Do you have to get legal involved with this? Like,
Yeah, we have like a legal
any advice on
appreciation
that
rights
front?
agreement.
Because you can't just start like how do you like make that like ironclad?
Yeah, well, you have to have a good attorney. Like I would say, like definitely as you're growing, you have to have a good professional team around you. You have have a good accountant, have good bookkeepers, have a good attorney. You have to don't go cheap on that stuff.
Got it.
All
right, hit me with your tech stack.
Tech stack. So a lot of this is new. We just recently switched over to Toast. Our app is Incentivio, integrates with Toast. They've been a great partner. We just launched this new app fall, October 30th of 2024. We had an app with SpeedyTab before that since 2017, who sold to Wix. But we had an app with Speedy Tap since 2017. We were early with our own app, and we just switched last year with Incentivio, and that's all part of like just being able to scale with our tech stack. So Incentivio, Toast. We were with Square. We switched over to Toast.
What was the biggest reason for making that switch? I feel like Square would work well with your concept. Why,
Yeah,
what was it missing?
I mean, there's a lot of things I loved about Square. So like I loved the simplicity of it and everything. But what was missing was, and I think they're working on this now, was the ability to integrate with app
the
API
Incentivio?
integration. Yeah, like you couldn't do all the things you
No
wanted.
two-way tokenization.
Yeah, so like for example, with my rewards program, I couldn't gamify it. It could only be Square's rewards program, which was, spend this much and you get spend $100 and you get 10.
So you moved to Incentivio, and they did not integrate. So you switched to Toast. So you're using
Toast and Incentivio work really well together.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're with Toast, you're with Incentivio for your online ordering and your app.
Yep.
You're with Marquee for customer reputation.
Yep. Ovation.
And Marquee is basically
SEO and customer recovery.
Okay. So like you are basically with Marquee, you can see what everybody on the internet's saying about you.
Yep, you could respond all right there.
So it's like a dashboard of all of your digital presence.
Yep.
Is it more than that? You said SEO?
Yeah, then they help you with your SEO listings, make sure that all of your pages are cleaned up, your Google listings.
Got it.
Your Yelp listings. You can also manage all of your hours in one place. So rather you can I'm closed for this holiday or whatever, you can manage that all right there. SEO, like keywords, things like that. So you're showing up better in the rankings.
Got it. But they don't do anything with your website, do they?
No. Well, they could. You could build local listings pages on your website through Marquee. We chose not. We're building a new website now too. That's going to have those local pages in there because I'm learning this too. Like I've learned a lot this year as well. I continue to learn every year, every day.
It never ends. That's why it's the second core value of Restaurant Unstoppable. We are students.
I never had to know about SEO before, because it was just like people would find us. But now you're trying to get more sophisticated.
What is your website?
Like the website?
Yeah, who develops your website?
Oh, so it's southblock.com. But literally, dude, it's on Wix, and I made it.
Okay. Do you think that is something that you're going to stick with, or would you evolve from that?
No, we're evolving. We're building a new website this year.
And you're building it. You're not outsourcing that?
We are outsourcing it.
Is it like just like a general website developer, or are you partnering?
We are working with Savory's marketing team.
Okay.
To put together the design, and then we're outsourcing. We have a marketing agency we work with who's going to build it for us.
Do you want to mention their name? I love shout outs.
Yeah, they're called Honest, ONIST. They do web, they do digital marketing, paid ads, and social creative stuff.
So that segue into Savory was good, but is there any other? I mean, you mentioned Ovation. They get a lot of love in the show. Ovation, customer feedback platform.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give them a one-liner real quick, or just?
I mean, Ovation's been great. It's basically like when someone places an order on Incentivio on our app, they get a text back asking if they want to leave feedback. It's great at intercepting what might be negative feedback that would get Google Yelp, so that you can recover that customer, make it right for them before it goes on Yelp, Google. So we're doing a lot of that, and then so it's great. It's a great way to interact with your guests when they have feedback to share, or if they do have a negative experience, you can make it right for them before it would hit like a Google or Yelp.
All right, man. We are 3 minutes past time, and I don't want to be a total jerk with your time. But I mean, real quick, it's been only about 2 years you've been with Savory, right?
Yeah.
I will try to respect your time as much as possible. But after we talk about Savory, I think because I'm familiar with this brand, I know via 313 I've had the Hunt brothers on twice.
Yeah.
Huge fans of them. Andrew Smith joined them for the second time they were on the show, and we learned a lot about Savory. Why did you think where were you at? Like 16, 17 locations when you went to join?
We were like 15, I think, but we had like 3 stores in development, I think. So when we closed the deal, what happened was, again, like during COVID, we kind of just got private equity interested in us. I got an offer but I wasn't out seeking private equity. I considered the offer, but then I was like, didn't feel right. And I decided, I was at a pivotal moment, like kind of in the business, where either I'm going to go for private equity, because I've been a student of private equity too all these years, like being in the DMV, just being friends with other business owners, entrepreneurs. Like you see a lot of things that go wrong with private equity.
Right.
So I've been cautious with it. I've learned from some other folks' mistakes in that private equity can be a great thing, but it can be a really bad thing too if you're not careful.
So what were you protecting yourself? Well, why did you feel safe in good hands and like that you're being careful when you joined Savory?
So when I finally made the decision to go for private equity, and the reason why I did that was because I was the fork in the road was either I keep doing what I'm doing, like one block at a time, and it'll be fine. But you know, my dad was 83 when he just closed his kebab restaurant last fall when his lease expired, and he thought about extending it. But you know, so I'm like, well, I started thinking about, well, what's going to be the end for me? I never thought about my exit before.
Never do we think about the exit strategy. The exit strategy for a restaurateur is die.
Yes.
It's not a good strategy.
So I started I never thought about that before. But then as I saw my dad, 83 years old, and like he wanted to work, you know, he wanted to keep working, but but then he ended up having to just like not renew the lease and didn't have the business to sell and just kind of rode off into the sunset. And so here I am signing all these 10-year leases, you know, coming out of COVID, and I'm doing the math. I'm not getting any younger. And I'm like, yeah, no, I got to start thinking about like what happens with this business, like even beyond me. Right. Cause it is like, I really believe that we have a special business, and the people around the business are special and want to see it grow and want to be part of that growth. So there's a responsibility there too. So I want to make sure that I was making the right decision for the business and for the people around the business. So I decided that the way to scale, I wasn't comfortable going into new markets on my own with me taking on all the risk. And I wanted to do that with a private equity partner. So for me, my goal was to take chips off the table myself, right? Like if I'm going to go private equity, I want to make sure that all these years of hard work, last thing I want to do is I sell equity and then there's nothing left for me, right? All the work that I've done. So I'm like, I'm going to sell enough equity so that me and my family are taken care of. And then I can just have fun and grow the business, right?
So when you go to private equity, basically what you're doing is you're giving up a piece of your business for help.
Yep.
What is is that a case by case scenario in terms of what you should, like in your experience, like what's a reasonable amount of your business to give up? What percentage?
Well, there's a lot of businesses, there's a lot of private equity partners that want to own a majority of your business. A lot of business owners that don't want to sell a majority of their business. I was comfortable with selling a majority of my equity. So I sold 60%.
Okay.
Savory does
Congratulations,
majority.
With all the assets you have, I'm assuming that you maybe have just achieved generational wealth.
Yeah, it was a pretty good outcome for
Congratulations.
me. I was happy about it. So
it all started with a little university.
It all started with the
counter.
whole university.
That's so cool.
Juice bar, yeah.
If that's not inspirational,
$30,000. And I built those counters myself, by the way, at GW.
Wow.
And I'm not even handy. But yes, yeah. So it was a good outcome for me and my family, and even better outcome for the business to have a great partner like this. But for me, I wanted to sell the majority so I could de-risk a little bit, take some chips off the table, and then just focus on growth.
Yeah.
So when I went out to pursue private equity, we put together a deck, and I hired a investment banker called Founders Advisors. They're down in Alabama. Met them actually through another podcast I was on, who network and introduced me to these folks. And basically the whole tone of it was like, let's surround myself with people who I feel like are just good people in this process, right? And these were just really good people. My attorney's good people. My accountant's good people.
So are they like brokers for like private equity?
They just help manage the details of the deal along the way.
So they represented you.
They represented me.
And what is it called?
What are they're called Founders Advisors.
And they just helped basically.
They help put the deck together, which is the pitch deck, which is basically tells the story of your brand, your numbers, who you are. We sent that out to, then they have a whole network of equity partners. I already knew Savory. They were my number one seed. Scott Shaw, the guy who owns the Old Town building, who became my friend mentor, he actually sent me an article with Savory in it. And he was like, hey, if you ever go out for private equity, these guys might be a great fit for you, because it talked a lot about
Their
values, their culture, their founder-driven brands. And so I went out to Restaurantology, and I was like, by the time I left there, I was like, these guys got to be my partner. Like this is unbelievable.
Are they still doing Restaurantology? Because I
went last year.
Okay, because they didn't link to it on the website.
I don't know if they're doing it this year or not. I haven't gotten that.
So I love what they're doing. I think there's like a lot of similarities of what they're trying to do with Restaurantology and what I'm doing, where it's just about bringing people together to share knowledge. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah, no, it was great. So I went there and met a lot of the team, and hadn't gone to market with my equity yet, but they knew we were coming. They said, okay, send us the deck.
That's free, Restaurantology.
Yeah.
Anybody can go to it.
Well, no, I think you have to be, it's only restaurant, I think you have to be invited, and it's restaurant operators. It's not, so a lot of conferences will be the big like sales pitches. So there's not vendors there selling you stuff, which is kind of cool about it.
Yeah.
You're just learning.
Yeah. Well, that's really what I want this podcast to be, a digital form of that, where I took a $100,000 pay cut this year, because I was like, I saw where I was going with sponsorship, and I was like, the only way I can continue down this path is if I am paid to say things that I might not necessarily believe.
Yeah.
And I was like, I do not want to become that. I want it to be word of mouth. There's a reason why I'm asking you all these, like, what's your tech stack? I'm looking for data. I'm looking for customer feedback, man. And I want to be that for the restaurant industry without having people influence that.
Right.
You know, I'm so proud to say everyone I'm working with today, Restaurant Systems Pro, Mies, US Foods, I have heard amazing things about these organizations, and I want to choose my relationships. I want to build a community and create win-win situations and collaborate with people I fucking love. Dude.
Yeah.
And I see that happening with them. They're doing something similar.
Right. Yeah, it's smart.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted. Like, we met a lot of private equity. There's a lot of people interested in us. We got a lot of offers. I said I knew Savory was my number one seed. They didn't come in with the highest offer, but I had to do a gut check through the process and say, what feels right? Who's the partner that I'm going to like not lose sleep over after I close the deal, because I know that they're just decent people. And so I ended up going with them. And, we've been partners for about a year now, but I would say, that's advice to people who are going out for private equity. Like, first you got to know, like, what do you want out of it? Are you looking for growth capital to grow your business? Are you looking to take chips off the table? Do you want to still own a majority equity, or are you okay with selling majority equity? Like I said, for me, like, the idea of not having the majority equity when I'm signing all these leases and signing guarantees, like, that felt good to me. Like,
yeah, man. Hit me with that company that helped you negotiate. I want to make sure I look into them. The
Founders Advisors.
Founders Advisors.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And where are they based?
They're based in Mobile, Alabama.
Ooh, guess who's going to be driving through Mobile, Alabama
There you
in
go.
a month or two? I'm going to be reaching out to these folks. I'd love to
There
get
you
them on
go.
the show.
Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't discussed up to this point, man? Something that you're hoping to get out?
Yeah, there's something I'd love to talk about. Like you said, big part of our mission as a community. Our mission is to help make people feel awesome one block at a time. And to me, that includes the entire community. One thing I realized is that our product is on the more expensive side. Not everyone can afford to eat healthy. Not everyone can afford fruits and vegetables. He said, when I was growing up, my dad's from Iran. He met my mom in Chicago when he came here when he was 19, didn't know any English, taught himself English, met my mom. He was a busboy at a restaurant. She was waiting tables. They met and moved back to, after they got married, they moved back to Iran. This is before the revolution when the Shah was in power, and people know the history of Iran, but he went back there. I was actually born there. My brother was born there. My sister was born there. And he was a professor in Iran at Kerman University. Well, they paid for him to come back to Ohio, Kent State, to get his PhD. While we were here, the war broke out in Iran. Oh, and so he lost all of his funding from the university. They were paying for his school, his housing, stipend for living. And now we have four young kids. My youngest brother was born in Ohio. So we're living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and young family that just lost their job, money for education. So we had to rely on food stamps and support from the community for that period of time. And my dad still ended up figuring out a way to get his PhD and became a professor in the States. And we ended up staying here, obviously. Wow. But, that taught me that no matter what life throws at you, through grit, perseverance, determination, you can find a way through that.
Man.
But it also taught me that sometimes you have hard times and you need help, right?
Yeah.
So we started donating fruits and vegetables back to people in our community, just because I would work with food banks. And at one point, it was actually when we stopped doing food, I went to them and I had boxed stuff, canned stuff. I said, I have a bunch of stuff I want to donate to you guys. And they're like, we actually appreciate it, but we don't have any room left on our shelves for boxed and canned stuff. We get so much donation. I said, what do you guys need? We need fresh stuff. We need fruits and vegetables because that's perishable and we can't stockpile it. So that's when the light went off. This is how we can support our community and give back. So we started doing that kind of just on our own, right? In 2019, fall of 2019, my mom was sick for a couple of years, and she got worse in the fall of 2019.
Damn, sorry.
And one thing I didn't tell you, she worked with my dad at the video store, and she would work the daytime shifts. And everyone would come in because they knew her during the day. And that's what taught me about the importance of connection to community.
Yeah.
Right. She knew everybody. She knew what movies they liked. That's what set her apart. Right. Or set our video store apart. So that's what taught me that connection to community. But also when I describe her as the most fruitful person that I ever knew. Her whole life was about supporting other people, her family, her community. And as she was she ended up passing away in fall of 2019. And as I was going through that, I started thinking a lot about the meaning of life, right? And what I want that to mean. What's your legacy mean? The difference between being successful and being fruitful. And to me, being fruitful is so much more important than being successful. So
fruit comes in many shapes, forms, and sizes. Yeah. Fruit isn't just a strawberry, success isn't just money, relationships, happiness, purpose. The garden is plush with different types of fruits, and you got to find a balanced diet. Right. So I don't know if that was a good analogy.
That was a great analogy. I appreciate it. So I started thinking about, well, how can we make this thing we're doing with fruits and vegetables more meaningful and impactful and a part of our mission at South Block? So I had this idea of starting this nonprofit. Let me take a drink.
Yeah, I've been talking for 2 hours, man. So 2 hours and 9 minutes, and you have 7 minutes before 3:55.
Oh, here we go. We're perfect timing then.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a good time to take a sip of this juice because this juice says this juice feeds people on it. And that has to do with Fruitful Planet, right? So I started a nonprofit called Fruitful Planet in my mom's honor after she passed. And I felt like it was just meant to be because I had been introduced to this guy named Brian McNair, who was helped Jose Andres start World Central Kitchen. He ran DC Central Kitchen for 10 years. And
we were introduced. Brian
McNair. Okay. We were introduced over email, never had a chance to meet up. But I was opening that Roslyn location, like I said, in the fall of 2019. This is when my mom was sick. And I was getting out of my Jeep, and the back of my Jeep had a tire cover that said Good Vibe Tribe and said South Block on it. And he was walking down the sidewalk just by chance and saw that. And he goes, "Are you Amir with South Block?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh, we never got to connect about your idea for this nonprofit." So I shared with him the idea as we're walking down the sidewalk. He goes, "You know what? I'm looking for a new project. If you want to do this, I'm in." I was like, hey, let me think about it, because I don't know anything about starting a nonprofit. I've never done it before. That was a Thursday. On Friday, I was driving down to Virginia Tech to see a football game, and my sister called me and said my mom had taken a turn for the worse. So I turned around to drive back home, and as I'm driving back, I decided, I'm gonna start Fruitful Planet. So I contacted Brian the next day. I said, let's do this. We started Fruitful Planet. A portion of everything you buy at South Block helps. It goes to Fruitful Planet to help fulfill our mission to get fruits and vegetables to people in need throughout the community.
That's huge, man.
And since that time, we've donated over 70,000 pounds of fruits and vegetables.
That's so important, man. We undervalue the importance of good, healthy food. And it's like we just gotten so far away of what food is, and I thank you for doing that work, because it's the people who need it the most are not getting it.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah. So we work closely with the food bank. Arlington Food Assistance Center has been a great partner. In fact, one of the ladies that runs AFAC, we were connecting over email. After a couple emails back and forth, she goes, "Is this Amir that used to live in McLean?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I was your neighbor."
Oh man.
I'm like, is that Jolie from my neighbor? You're with AFAC? She's like, "Yeah." So she used to actually stand out on the front lawn talking to my mom all the time. So again, it was another one of those signs. I was like, this is what we should be doing.
And Brian McNear is with AFAC.
No, he's not with AFAC. He was with DC Central Kitchen.
Got it.
He helped me organize and start Fruitful Planet. And where is he at now? He's at another nonprofit that's doing awesome things out in Arlington right now. Kitchen.
Okay. Oh wait, that sounds familiar. I want to respect your time. I have just a couple more questions to wrap up. Yeah. Real simple. We'll be out of here in no time. What is one thing about you, your business, and so anything that you do, you or your business, that makes you unstoppable?
You know what? I think it's I think it's my determination, it's my grit, and it's my attention to detail, and my concern for people that makes me unstoppable.
I love that, man. The mission statement is to change the world by inspiring, empowering, and transforming the restaurant industry. How have you personally transformed? How are you a better man today than the man you were when you got started?
Well, for one, I can watch my kids' soccer games on the weekends.
Nice.
I have more free time.
I love that. For you.
It's funny how things evolve. Like you're still busy and there's still stress, but it's just in different ways, right? But I do always think about that mom and pop operator, and it's not easy. It's tough, man. So you got to respect those folks that are doing that. But so what's the question that what makes me a bet?
So what, how have you transformed? How
have I transformed? I mean, I think I mean, the one thing is I think I'm proud to say that I'm the same person I was. I haven't let the industry change me, but I've just gotten more savvy, more smart about the business of the business that I didn't know in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think to scale, you have to become sophisticated around this stuff. I think you can get away with in the beginning if you have like an awesome product and a strong culture. But as you scale, you got to get more sophisticated around your numbers and your systems.
This is the last question I ask before I have you call somebody out. It's a doozy. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure. With the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you could leave behind for your legacy and the good of humanity. What are those 3 pieces of wisdom?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Let's see. I would say, it starts with where I started, like people over profits.
1.
I would say make your business about a larger purpose.
2.
I would say this is a recent lesson that I wish I would have learned earlier, which is to pause every once in a while and appreciate how far you've come, appreciate the work you've done, and make sure you stop with your team and appreciate that too. So stop pause and appreciate where you're at from time to time.
It's huge.
It's just so easy to just keep going. So reflection, pausing, appreciating, celebrating is so important.
Yeah. And this is the last thing I'm going to ask, right on time. Who do you respect and admire? Somebody that if you found out I got them as a guest on the show, you would just be like, I got to hear what this person has to say. Somebody who's inspiring, somebody who has knowledge to share, somebody who can lift the industry up. Who comes to mind?
I mean, I think if you did have Scott Shaw on the show, he's with Alexandria Restaurant Partners. He would be a great guest. I mean, he also started Fishbowl Marketing. He had that for like 17 years. It was a digital marketing, a restaurant marketing company that he sold. And now they run some of the best restaurants in Old Town Alexandria. And he's just a great dude.
Love that. You already mentioned Amy's name. I'm going after her. I'd love to get her on the show. I'm going to be in Austin. Look out, Amy. I'm coming after you. And, this has been a lot of fun, man. Thank you so much. How can we connect if we want to follow you on social media or maybe reach out to you to be a part of your organization? What's the best way to connect?
I think still, like I said, Instagram, 2011, that's still like our number one seed. So follow us on Instagram at South Block. That's really probably the best way to follow along with what's going on with us.
Awesome, man. This is where I say thank you so much for taking time to share your story, your knowledge, your perspective, your mentorship. I literally cannot do what I do without people like you being so generous with all these assets, your time. There is no questioning, man. You are unstoppable.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, dude.
This was fun.
Cheers.